Jungkook once visited him while at work. Taehyung was talking to his secretary about some important matter over coffee in the lobby, when he caught a glimpse of the younger. Taehyung smiled, waved his hand, and called his name to get his attention, when the younger seemed to not notice him. He got a smile in return and Jungkook rushed to hug him, before giving him his homemade lunch, exclusively prepared by him. The difference between him then and now was that he was in love with the kitchen, and everything in it now, while he almost hated the kitchen before. Taehyung found it cute, and he just had to chuckle at his adorableness every time he had a chance. Jungkook stayed beside him, while Taehyung and his secretary continued their meeting. The younger tried listening, but their topic bored him, so he just focused his attention on playing with his husband's veiny hands and long fingers. At some point in their conversation, Taehyung stopped replying to watch his husband trace the veins on his hand with fondness in his eyes. His secretary noticed this and smiled softly at them. The love between them was just so loud and overflowing. "I'm happy for the both of you, sir." His secretary's comment brought him back to reality and he smiled at her. "Thank you," he replied. "He really is adorable," she muttered while looking at Jungkook and giggled. When the younger raised his head to look at her confusedly, when their exchange of words lessened, Taehyung chuckled with her when Jungkook frowned, not liking the fact that his husband was smiling and laughing with another woman. The two were shocked when Jungkook suddenly latched onto Taehyung's arm possessively while glaring at the woman. He didn't speak a word after that, but he also didn't let go of his husband's arm and continued throwing deadly daggers at the secretary, who wasn't even uncomfortable but cooing fondly at his cuteness. They finished their meeting after a while and Taehyung's secretary excused herself. Jungkook's glare followed her back until she disappeared completely from his sight, and Taehyung just couldn't help but laugh at him. Of course, he got hit on the chest for doing that, but that didn't stop him from laughing either. "Come on, let's eat these before they get cold," the older said, taking the food out of the bag while shaking his head with a wide smile. He began digging in and when it satisfied his taste buds. But Jungkook wasn't going to let what happened to get forgotten. "I don't like that woman," he whined, crossing his arms over his chest as he pouted, and glared at his husband this time. "And you laughed with her?" "I don't like that too, but baby, she was just complimenting you." That made Jungkook frown even more. "Then why were you laughing if she was complimenting me?" Taehyung smiled warmly at him before giving him a bite which he accepted with a pout. "Because you were acting so jealous and cute," he replied before pinching the younger's soft cheeks. Jungkook slapped Taehyung's hand and crossed his arms again. "Who said I was jealous? I just don't like her." "Okay." The man laughed again and this time it really annoyed Jungkook. "But baby, she's your friend and you can't hate her." "Why can't I hate a friend? I can hate her if she's taking you away from me. I promise she's not doing anything like that, and here you keep on taking her side." "I'm not. You are. I hate you." "Just say that you don't love me anymore," Jungkook shouted. Employees halted what they were doing and looked at Jungkook in shock before Taehyung glared at all of them, causing them to continue doing their job. A long moment of silence passed before Jungkook unsurprisingly hugged Taehyung and spouted apologies for his actions and words, which of course Taehyung understood since it has been a while since Jungkook was like this. The younger would get mad at him and start a fight before coming back to apologize and act sweet again. Taehyung could just sigh and hug him back. Jungkook would often go to his company after that, but what surprised him was that he wasn't the reason for the younger sudden visits. He would go to his office first, and give him his handmade lunch before exiting the door to stay outside his office, most of the time. And for what? To keep an eye on his secretary, yes. Jungkook gave birth to a healthy baby boy, and they named him Junghyun. He was their cute little sunshine while Era was their beautiful star. They were satisfied. Their little family has never been this complete, and they never knew they could be this happy. Sometimes, Jungkook still felt scared of living that happiness because even after years, he still couldn't believe that this was his life now. After all his sufferings, after being alone for such a long time, he finally had something to be proud of. He finally had something to live for, and that something was his family. His family made him live his life, not just because it was a must, but because it was his. It was theirs. They were such good parents. They made sure their children grew up with love and security. Never did they ever let them feel neglected. Weekends still stayed empty as for Taehyung's schedule, and it was going to stay that way even after a very long time. Weekends were their special days, their time to bond and forget about everything out there that gave them problems. It was as if time was ticking so fast for them. 1 minute they were just changing their diapers, and then in a blink of an eye, their children were already graduating from high school, and then college. Soon after, they also found love and created their own families. They visited them often. The last time Era visited, she was holding her baby boy in her arms while her husband was beside her. They also heard about Junghyun's wife's first pregnancy, and they couldn't be happier for them. They had grown so fast, Jungkook said while watching his once small family get bigger. It was a Sunday, and unsurprisingly, everyone was home with them. This became their little tradition. "Honey, we grew too," Taehyung muttered close to the younger's ears, sending goosebumps down Jungkook's spine. Years had passed, and Taehyung could still make him feel all those teenage sparks and butterflies. It was funny yet amazing how he was turning 56 soon, and still felt like a hopeless romantic teenager around Taehyung. Jungkook smiled, cupping his husband's face while staring lovingly at him. "We didn't we?" His fingers gently caressed the skin of Taehyung's cheeks, while his eyes roamed from the older's hair to his eyes and down to his lips, and Jungkook's smile widened. "We started having gray hairs, and wrinkles, and you do have weak knees now too." The younger chuckled at his own joke, exaggeration flowing in his words. He was suddenly pulled into a rough kiss, shocking him a little before he eventually responded to it. Jungkook took a deep breath in when the man pulled away with a smirk on his lips. "I can still do so much to you and your baby, and my knees won't even hurt." He giggled at his husband's coyness, wrapping his arms around the older's neck, their foreheads touching and eyes closed. "Weak knees or not, I still love you," he whispered, loud enough so Taehyung could hear him but soft enough so only he could hear it. "Always," he added. He soon felt arms wrapping around his waist and lips against his forehead. "Our children may grow and have their own families. They may leave us and live on their own, but me, I'll always be here with you." Jungkook massaged his aching head, starting on his temple to his forehead. Lately, his eyesight would just blacken so suddenly, and his head would ache more frequently. He was also having problems with sleeping, but it was not even morning right now. It was a freaking afternoon, and his head was aching. He rested on the couch, keeping his eyes closed to stop the world from spinning. He then let out a sigh. "Your head hurting again?" He felt a body sit beside him, and he quickly opened his eyes to look at his husband. "Yeah," he answered, laying his head on the older's shoulder. "You should see the doctor." I'm getting worried. The thing was, Jungkook was scared. He knew something was wrong with him and knew that Taehyung was starting to notice it too.